Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name is Lorene. It's just after Christmas, and the days are just kind of going past rather slow. I thought that it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was having a nap and thinking, oh man, it's cold in the house. I should think we should get a fire going for the evening. And then I realized it was only 10 in the morning. So I think I'm a little confused. My body rhythms are confused. But anyhow, one of the reasons I'm a little tired is I have been up reading later than I usually do, and I have 3 excellent books that I would like to recommend. Well, 2 are excellent and 1 is just about excellent. So the first one I started just after Christmas is The Dark Lord Clementine. And that's written by Sarah Jean Horwitz, who is also the author of Karma and Grit, and there are 2 in that series. In this one we have Charlotte, whose father is the Dark Lord of a sort of a castle, a mountain piece, and a village in the valley. There are 7 mountains, and the sister mountains nearby, and one of the things that there's 3 things that the Dark Lord has to do. One is he's supposed to protect his demise or demands against all the other Dark Lords who probably want to just expand because they're dark and evil. The other thing that's going on is that someone has cast a curse against him, and it's sort of like an opposite Pinocchio curse, is that his humanity just is getting less and less, and his woodenness is getting more and more. And it turns out to be a hedge witch whose nickname, now what was her nickname? That'll come back to me. Anyhow, it wasn't quite as obvious as Wicked White Witch, but it was something like that. So she's specializes in arbormancy. So she set this curse against the Dark Lord, and he's being slowly turning into a tree. And parts of him are falling off whenever he gets mad, and he slams his hand down on the table, then some of his fingers fall off. And the third thing he's supposed to do is at least every 6 months, in order to keep his status as Dark Lord, he has to do some kind of evil, dastardly thing against the villagers, or against animals, or against another community. Because he's been cursed, the Dark Lord can't do this. So here's where Clementine comes in. She has to take over the running of the farm and the castle. She still has to try and figure out a way to do some kind of dastardly deed, even though that's not her nature. It turns out she's not going to make a great Dark Lord if she follows her heart. So luckily for her, things kind of go wrong, which she can claim that she did a dastardly deed, and that will keep the Dark Lord, what would you call them? Watch guards or something. Off her back for a little while, and while she's trying to find a cure to the curse. So she's basically friendless, and over the course of the time, who wants to be friends with a Dark Lord's daughter? I mean, what if you tease her and the Dark Lord gets mad at you? It's even worse than some of those funny things you see of dads and boys coming to pick up their daughters for a date, and the men are all, don't you with my daughter. So there's that kind of threat overhanging poor Clementine. So the dilemma for Clementine is how to find a cure for her father, how to make it appear like nothing's gone wrong, how to find some support, and discover also like what really is friendship. So because she's so inexperienced at what friendship is like, she really struggles to she has not really got any reason not to trust people, but at the same time she doesn't trust people. She's in that awkward spot. So it's a really lively little book. The character is very well drawn. Her growing group of friends is very well drawn. Goes from a woman who is a unicorn hunter, which I haven't mentioned because I can't tell you everything. But the unicorn hunter, is she a friend or is she a foe? There's a group of witches in the woods who've been hiding from the other wicked witch. And are they friend or foe? Is the black sheep who talks a friend or foe? Pardon me. So she's got a lot on her mind, and sometimes her solutions work and other times they don't. It's just a charming, charming adventure. And of course, there's the whole dilemma of how do you feel about your dad turning into a tree? So it's just a wonderful, wonderful book. Of course, it has, I should have mentioned this right at the outstart, but that is for middle grade readers. And I think it's just, for some of the people who I know come to the watch this video, I think it would be quite fun to read to young people. So the next one I didn't love quite as much. It is The Magnificent Monsters of Cedar Street by Lauren Oliver. And it has some charming illustrations now. I've got them. Let's see. Here is a picture of the protagonist. She's capturing a baby dragon there. And here is her friend, who you have to sort of look in the middle of the page. He's bringing to Cedar Street. Okay, let me give you the names of the characters first. So we have Cordelia, whose dad is a veterinarian. And oh my gosh, what is the name of the little guy? I should, you know what, I should just put these things right on the, Gregory. I knew that. I should just put them on a sticky note outside my book so I don't have to do that, but I'm out of sticky notes. Okay, so the basic plot line here is that Cordelia's dad is a vet, but he also treats monsters. And this is a world where there are monsters, but they are either not believed in at all, or those who believe in them find them to be like a dreadful thing. And the word monster comes about because when Darwin was doing his Tree of Life, the monsters were just not normative, I guess, and so they would have their own Tree of Life, although Cordelia's mother would argue that they belong on the same Tree of Life. And I'm talking about, you know, where dinosaurs, birds, dinosaurs, rhinos, alligators, whatever, however you want to draw that tree. So the monsters have been excluded, and therefore that makes them monsters, just as opposed to alternative versions of beings. And so Gregory brings his puppy, who turns out to be a zombie puppy, therefore a zuppy, to Cordelia's dad, and he does not know at the time that this puppy is a zuppy. And so the animal gets cured, and this is another case where something bad is happening to the father. So the father disappears along with all the monsters that they have been caring for in the house. And so it is Cordelia's job in her mind to find dad and to find the monsters. And Gregory becomes very early on in the story a part of this adventure. And it involves some traveling by train to, let me think, they travel to Boston by train, and then they end up having this crazy adventure in a circus that involves a hot air balloon. And with the hot air balloon and sort of Cordelia's nemesis, they end up traveling to Halifax, which was kind of fun. Halifax is in here. And they get to King's College. Then from King's College, they end up on a ship with pixies and back to Boston. Is that right? Yeah. So lots of travel, lots of opportunities for different kinds of monsters to show up, lots of opportunities for good people and bad people to be part of the adventure, lots of opportunities for Cordelia, who's also been friendless most of her childhood because of the monsters they're hiding in the house, to figure out what friendship means and doesn't mean, loyalty, figuring out what is a truth. who to trust, who not to trust, and they end up back in Boston. There's a final monster, deep crypt kind of adventure that has a resolution that I can't say I love the resolution. I think that yeah, how do you talk about that without giving things away? It was it was kind of this swooping in of the solution to the crisis without there having been any forewarning. It's kind of like, you know, the gods just came down and fixed everything. Not that the gods were part of this, although I suppose could have happened. So what didn't I like about this book? I think she writes lovely writing, and she has very good scene building, and she intersperses the action and the dialogue with the scene building really well. But there was just wasn't, I hate this phrase, there wasn't a spark for me. I don't know, maybe she labored the setting a bit too much. It just didn't come along as quickly as the adventure demanded of it, and there were some illogical parts that happened in the adventure itself, and I have to keep reminding myself to be in the headspace of a young reader, and I think a young reader wouldn't notice what I was noticing. So I think that most readers of this in the appropriate age group would really rock with this book. What's interesting about Lauren Oliver is that she has several other books that have won awards, and let me see, she's also got something, the novel Before I Fall was adapted into a major motion picture with Zoe Deutsch, and there's a YA novel called Panic, which is being adapted into a television series with Amazon Studios. So she's a solid writer for sure. I think I was wondering if, because I had just finished reading this one, it was like maybe the pacing was just too different between them, and this one was just a little slower and a little less logical. So maybe that's why I don't love it quite as much. But yeah, it's totally a solid read. Okay, the third one I just finished is Aggie Morton, Mystery Queen, The Body Under the Piano. And that is by Marthe Jocelyn, with illustrations by Isabel Follath. And at the beginning of the book, we get portraits of every person who appears in this book, including Tony the dog. And you can get a little bit of a sense of who's going to be the bad guy, just a little bit around you know, sneaky eyes or sneaky mouths. What I think is fun about including this is that if you've got someone who likes to write their own stories, it introduces a way to discover who their characters are. So a young writer would, if they could draw a picture of who their characters were, it might help them to you know, just do the writing part of it as well. There are some smaller illustrations at the heading of each chapter that do give a tiny clue as to what the contents of the chapter are. But then so does the title, because she'll do something like a sentimental outing or a new motive. So you get a little clue in the picture and in the title. So what's this book about? Okay, so Aggie Morton is based on real-life author Agatha Christie, and her friend is Henri Perrault, who is sort of based on the I just lost the word, Perrault mystery series that Agatha Christie wrote. So what she's done is turned Agatha Christie and her main mystery character into children, and they're solving their first mystery. They both have never encountered anything that's the least bit mysterious or dastardly or anything like that. So that's the challenge that these two young people have to face. There's a body under the piano who turns out to be the neighbor, the matriarch of the neighbor house where Aggie lives. Henri is a Belgian refugee child who is living with the local vicar, and it is through some work for refugees that Aggie and Henri meet in the first place at a concert. And it's after the concert that the body ends up under the piano. So that's not giving too much away. That's kind of just the world building that's going on. So what Aggie and Henri have to do is, they don't have to, because there's plenty of adults who are doing it wrong, but they see what's going wrong. So they've both got great observational skills. And Henri, as if you know the Poirot series, is a decidedly logical character. And so this young Henri is demonstrating early days of that, as well as some of Poirot's idiosyncratic preoccupations with leather shoes or a mustache, and just fun little character things like that. Aggie is more of a budding writer. She's not entirely logical. She's more emotional and imaginative. So the two of them come together, solving and noticing clues from different angles, which makes for a really nice little dynamic. And Aggie is a heavily overprotected child, and Henri he's not really roaming around, but he's just got a lot more room for going to a park or going to a candy store or something. He's not as guarded. So there's the two worlds also kind of intersecting. So the logic of the story is basically an Agatha Christie mystery, and there are a number of clues that are nicely placed across. The pacing is very much like a cozy mystery. The characters very much like a cozy mystery, and of course the solution is very much like an Agatha Christie mystery solution. So if you've read anything of Agatha Christie, and I've read only one, but I have watched a couple of movies, you kind of know what you're going to get is as an adult reader. As a child reader, it's just so solidly built, and the clues are logical but not obvious. You have to do some digging and some work for it, and you have to do some deducing along the way to figure it out. So it's a solid little mystery, and the characters can't help but be good because they're based on some pretty interesting real life characters. This was published in 2020, so I think it's possible that we will see more of this pair of detectives. And she does have 3, 6, 9, 12 other books out there, and I believe they are for middle readers as well. So I think she's an author to delve into if you're looking for something. So I would say that all of these are totally worth your while. And I will take a picture of that, put it on Instagram. And I think if I was to, I would say that the Magnificent Monsters was just my least favorite of the three, but they still are solid 4s. 4 out of 5s. Whoa, we're just making a mess. So those are my recommendations for this week, and I hope you all have a good lead into your new year. 2021 I think is going to be a better year simply because it isn't 2020. Maybe nothing changes, who knows, but I'm looking forward to it a lot. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.